I'm Spazo, and this is the 28 House. For nearly 7 years, I've been traveling to fan conventions, debating only the most pointless of topics. I've been collecting data and opinions while ruining countless photos of cosplayers. My goal? Learn from others and promote reason and good faith debate. One point I make every time is that the comment section is on my back because I don't read them. For decades, comment sections have been infamous, not for reasoned debate and learning, but for being poisonous cesspools of hate, vitriol, and all manner of impoliteness. So I thought to myself, how would I respond to a particularly pointed comment as if it had been said to me in person during my work at conventions? This time, I will read the comments.
So right now, from what I understand, there's a bit of a kerfuffle, I think that's a good word to use, between the fans of Pokémon and the indie game Palworld. So when I went looking for comments, I decided to look up the IGN video review for Palworld. And I picked out a handful of comments and thought, how would I treat these if these were used with me at a convention while I was wearing the sign? It's the Pokemon game we've always wanted. Now, since I'm always dealing in fan topics, I can tell you that I speak to dozens and hundreds of fans about different franchises, different IPs, and in almost no cases do all fans think the same way. They don't all want the same thing. So when someone says, this is the game we've always wanted, one person usually can't speak for all the fans. I know I'm a Pokemon fan, and I don't think the comment necessarily speaks for me. So if I were to offer some notes on this comment, maybe instead of saying, it's the Pokemon game we've always wanted, you could say, it's the Pokemon game I've always wanted. That would still be true. You would still be making a point, and I think we could move on from there. Pokemon hasn't evolved in years. This was inevitable. So I love this, because Pokemon the franchise is actually partially responsible for affecting the definition of evolution as we know it. We think of evolution in the Pokemon sense, where a Pokemon changes from one form to another. But a better word for that would be something like metamorphosis or revolution. Those are defining fast changes, immediate changes. Evolution actually refers to a very slow change, one that happens over generations. So if you're describing a slow change like evolution, Pokemon is a great example of that, if not a great definition of the word itself. Pokemon has remained relatively the same mechanically for 28 years, but there's been small incremental changes across each generation, all of which have added up to a game that in a lot of ways is completely different to where it started. That's a literal evolution. So to say that Pokemon hasn't evolved in years would be the opposite. Pokemon, in fact, has evolved in years. They just maybe did a poor job of changing the definition of evolution for the fans. Does that make sense? Did what I just say make sense? Yeah, okay. See, words matter is just kind of what I'm saying. It's like, I got to choose my words carefully because I often have chosen my words very, very poorly. Palworld is the best example to show just how lazy Game Freak has been with the Pokemon franchise. Okay, so after doing this for many years, that's one of the words I typically never use when describing any piece of art, and that's lazy. And I had to learn that the hard way because I in fact used the word lazy on a sign at IkiCon in 2023. And I was 100% wrong about that. And when it comes right down to it, any piece of art, especially a mass media franchise like Pokemon is, it's hard to describe. You may disagree with the quality of the art in question. You might say, oh, it runs poorly, or it is not making me feel what it used to make me feel, or these story beats are ones I've heard before. But to throw the word lazy all over the place really does a disservice to a lot of people that work really, really hard on any game or any movie. Madam Web just came out, and by all accounts, I've not seen it myself, but everyone says it's a bad movie. But that wouldn't necessarily describe the people who made it as lazy. I would think that's very unfair. Yeah, words matter. I think I got the image of me with the word lazy on my sign. I learned that the hard way. I always, whenever somebody throws out the word lazy as the horse of the debate, I'm pretty quick to correct. It's like, look, if somebody made a TV show or made a movie or made a comic book or wrote some fan fiction, as I found out, that does not make them lazy. Art is hard work. Take it from me. I put out, one video a month, and they put out an entire franchise annually with no changing deadline. With the deadline they can't change. It might not necessarily be a good game. It might not necessarily be a good movie, but there is still work behind it, and I would never call that work lazy. We can have other words for something like that. I think that about covers it. What do you think? Always helpful. Thank you.